This story comes from Lena, who wrote in about a relationship that started in Paris and taught her a difficult lesson she won't forget. I had always dreamed of Paris. After a rough breakup and feeling stuck in my job in Chicago, I booked a one-way ticket to visit my friend Hannah, a friend from college who lived there. We met at the University of Illinois and spent late nights laughing about guys we were dating and dreaming about where life might take us. She had married a French guy named Mark and moved to Paris years ago. She had always been asking me to come stay with her and was excited when I said I was finally coming. My first few weeks in Paris felt surreal. Mornings at a small cafe near Hannah and Mark's apartment. Strong coffee, warm pastries, scooters buzzing past cobbled streets. Hannah took me to markets full of fresh produce, art galleries hidden behind ivy-covered walls, and quiet gardens where time seemed to slow down. At one of the dinner parties they hosted, I met Louis. He was tall, with dark, slightly messy hair, and dressed effortlessly in clothes that looked expensive, but not overly flashy. He wrote cultural columns for a respected French newspaper. He spoke about art and politics with a quiet authority that made people listen. He asked me about Chicago, and I found myself opening up to him more than I expected. He talked about people, his parents, stubborn uncles, gossiping aunts, family arguments over too much wine, and summers spent with cousins in the countryside. I loved that. Soon after that dinner, Louis reached out to me. At first, casual messages. He would give me recommendations for bookshops and cafes, invite me along to exhibitions and small gatherings with friends. We wandered the city, strolled along the Seine, sat in parks eating pastries, shared quiet moments watching street performers. We talked about everything. In the days that followed, we found ourselves in each other's company more and more. Conversations flowed easily, filled with laughter and shared dreams. There was like a kind of electricity between us and a sense of belonging I had not felt before. Little moments stayed with me. The warmth of his hand brushing against mine, the way his eyes lit up when he laughed, the comfort of sitting together in silence without needing to say anything. Being with him just felt like home. Soon, it felt natural spending more time at his apartment than at Hannah and Mark's place. His small but warm space became familiar. A drawer for my things, an extra toothbrush. The first time he called at our apartment, I smiled. We traveled together, drives through the countryside, fields shifting color with the light. Old stone farmhouses dotted the hills, dinners in little villages where everyone knew each other and meals lasted for hours. I felt like I had found the person and the life I had been looking for. But then I got the job offer in New York, a senior position at a major publication, double the salary I was making at the time. I told Louis, and he seemed genuinely excited. We talked about what life there might look like. I was excited and painted a picture for him of rooftop bars, endless opportunities, and a fresh start. He said he was ready for the adventure. We packed up and moved to New York. We rented a small apartment in Manhattan. I had visited the city before, but living there felt different. Loud, overwhelming, alive. At first, Louis seemed to love it. He worked remotely at home and set up a workspace by the window. We explored museums, found a bakery he said was almost acceptable, and went to jazz nights downtown. He joked about Americans putting ice in everything and how they worked too much. But then the tone of the joke started to change. He rolled his eyes at fast food places on every corner. He complained about the noise, the constant rush, the fake smiles. He missed his parents. He missed long dinners and hanging out with Mark. He missed sitting in cafes for hours without anyone rushing him. Then I got the promotion. It was more responsibility and, of course, more money. I came home excited. But Louis barely reacted when I told him the news and then said he was tired and went to bed. The next week was really tense. He was quiet and distant. When I asked what was wrong, he'd just say it was nothing. A few days later, he told me his paper was ending remote work. He had to go back to Paris. I was confused, as he always said he could write from anywhere. I asked him why he needed to keep working anyway, as I could support both of us. He was furious at this suggestion and said his job wasn't about the money. It was who he was. He wasn't going to be a dependent. He booked his flight back to Paris. The days before he left felt heavy. I couldn't stop wondering if this was really about the paper, or about me doing better than him. The night before he left, I asked him if this was really about his job at the paper, or if it was my promotion. If it was the fact that I earned more. He stood up, shaking his head. He said he couldn't believe I would say that, and he walked out. He did deny it, I suppose, but he didn't try to talk to me and try and figure things out either. At the airport, he kissed my cheek and said that Paris was the best version of us. And then, he was gone. Years later, on a business trip, I passed that cafe where it all started. I thought about going in to see if he was there sitting at his favorite table, but I kept walking. Thanks to Lena for sending that story in to share with us. If you have a love story to share with us or a question you want advice on, send it in and we will try and feature it on the channel.